That's why you need Destination Discovery, the magazine of the Discovery Channel. With easy-to-read hour-by-hour listings, the most complete program descriptions available, great stories about real-world experiences, people, places, nature, history, science, and technology. And the spectacular photography in Destination Discovery takes you as close as you can get. Now you can get 12 issues, a full year's subscription to Destination Discovery for only $11.97. Call 1-800-294-2200 right now to get the most out of watching the Discovery Channel. Call and subscribe today to explore your world with Destination Discovery.
He packs heavy. She packs light. She wears silk. He wears wool. He's comfortable at 68 degrees. She prefers 72. Good thing they own a Buick Park Avenue with available dual-zone climate control. 72 for her, 68 for him. Too bad everything isn't as accommodating as Park Avenue. From Buick, the new symbol for quality in America.
I'm a four-lane lover with some ground to cover. I'm in an interstate state of mind. Ah, my phone book's gone. Thank goodness for this. Call accountant. Yes.
Call Sprint for the voice-activated phone card, the easiest card on the road.
Is this a great country or what?
Next, explore an eruption and film active volcanoes on Challenge. Then, victims of incest fight back on Justice Files. And investigate the buying and selling of human organs on Discovery Journal. Coming up next on the Discovery Channel.
Scientists Maurice and Katia Kraft thrive on the thrill of filming active volcanoes. Their story and footage next on Challenge.
Volcanoes and life on the planet we call Earth will always be linked. The atmosphere we breathe, the crust of the Earth we live on, the waters of the oceans and rivers all have their origins in volcanoes. Few scientists accept the dangerous challenge of devoting themselves to the study of volcanic eruptions. Two who did were Maurice and Katia Kraft. They traveled the world searching for eruptions before they were killed themselves by volcanic activity around Mount Unzen in Japan in 1991. What follows is their film record of some of the amazing events witnessed during their 20 years as volcano watchers. The vineyards of Alsace in northeastern France. It's where the Crafts had their home. Volcanoes had been the major preoccupation of the Crafts ever since they were school children. At the age of 8, Maurice was already making models of volcanic craters. He met Katia at Strasbourg University, where they both were graduated as geologists. In 1968, the Crafts founded their own Center for Volcanology. They began to broaden their scientific objectives to record volcanic events on film.
Formerly, I was studying gases and taking samples, but now not so much because I prefer to observe, like Maurice, the eruptions going. And the other thing very important, I think, is to take pictures, the photos, and this is my job.
By lecturing and writing books on volcanoes, they generated funds for expeditions to some of the 20 or more volcanoes that erupt each year.
Ça, c'est peut-être pas mal, puisque t'as le personnage et t'as le machin.
Le volcanologue.
Of the 500 or so active volcanoes in the world, they'd studied over 300. A remarkable achievement, given the remoteness of many eruptions. As students back in 1966, their horizons were limited to Europe, to the volcanoes of southern Italy. Appropriately enough, the first one they visited was Volcano Fossa, the ancestor of all volcanoes. It was here the Romans believed that their god of fire, Vulcan, had his forge. Being students, the Crafts and their friends had only the most basic equipment for conducting their early experiments. Collecting the mix of gases vented by the volcano came as a rude awakening. Sulfurous vapors containing chlorine and carbon dioxide added to the general unpleasantness. Stromboli, active for at least 2,000 years, was their first taste of a volcano in eruption. Collecting minerals and gases from here was potentially lethal. The experience left a lasting impression on Maurice.
When you hear about an eruption, you say, okay, I will make gas analysis, take temperature, and this and that. And when you arrive on the place, the show is completely different. You know, the volcano is making the show he wants to make, and it's never the show you are waiting for. So generally, the activity is so strong is that you just drop your instrument and you look at the volcano, and even maybe you even fell in love with the eruption itself. And then sometimes, and even often, you forget to make the observations when it's really very fascinating, you know. You can forget to work on it. This happened often to me, and I like to forget to make the scientific work and just to look at the power of nature. It's really fantastic.
On January 23, 1973, Maurice and Katja were called to southern Iceland. A column of ash 5 miles high marked the port of Heimaey. Eldfell volcano had suddenly erupted after thousands of years of silence. It forced the evacuation of 5,000 residents.
To see all those houses with light on, you know, with curtains, with dishes on the tables, and so everything was ready, but nobody's there. It was like being in a sort of theater with a big scenery ready for a show, but nobody's there for the show, and just the volcano behind.
Within a week, 100 houses were burned or buried. The salvage teams were powerless. For Maurice and Katja, the challenge was to get close to the eruption.
In fact, a volcano is like a wild animal. He's blind, he don't see you. And you are a sort of crazy doctor, and you want to understand what is his stomach problem exactly at the moment. So first, you have to stay far, long time, and to look at his habits, you know, his behavior, where is the block falling, and so on and so on. We are not kamikaze, just jumping in a volcano, not really.
A major problem was the huge fall of ash.
We went in an hotel to put our things there, and the owner of the hotel said, "Oh, don't pay for the room. My hotel will be destroyed tomorrow." And in the evening, we went in the building through the main door. And next morning, we went out through the first floor. You know, during the night, 5 meters of ashes fell on this building.
Another threat to the salvage workers came from the carbon dioxide given off by the volcanic ash. It led to the only fatality in over 5 months of eruption. By mid-February, lava flows narrowed the harbor entrance to only 100 feet. Without access to the sea, Iceland's biggest fishing port would have no future. In desperate hope, firefighting boats turned their hoses on the lava front. The lava slowed, then stopped. But celebrations were short-lived. Another wall of lava threatened the fish processing plants and the port itself. A final battle was joined. 45 giant pumps were airlifted in from the United States. 19 miles of pipes were positioned to launch an attack on the lava still advancing at some 16 feet a day. By pumping 4,000 tons of seawater an hour, they hoped to solidify the lava front and divert the flow to another part of the island. As the lava was hit by the water, its temperature fell from 1,800 degrees to 1,500 degrees Fahrenheit. At this temperature, it ceased to move, creating a barrier in places 130 feet high. The port was saved. For the first time in history, a big lava flow had been diverted. Eldfell, the fire mountain, gave its last gasp 157 days after it started. Almost all of the residents of Heimaey decided to return. Then they faced the task of rebuilding the 400 houses lost in the eruption. Farmland, building a cone 500 feet high in a week. After a year, it had reached 1,100 feet. In the process, the lava it ejected drove 6,000 people from their homes. On the anniversary of the eruption, the former villagers returned to where their homes lie buried, near the now silent volcano of Paracutin. In places, former fields, orchards, and pine forests lie 800 feet deep under the lava. Only the church tower marks where thousands of people once lived. In contrast to those sudden explosions, Etna on the island of Sicily has been continually active for thousands of years. Initially flowing at perhaps 20 miles per hour and with a temperature of 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, the smooth surface lava is known universally by the Hawaiian name pahoehoe, meaning satin-like. Further from its source, the lava cools, loses gases, thickens, and slows. It may then form a mass of angular jagged points known as a'a lava, another Hawaiian expression, reflecting the discomfort caused by walking barefoot over these sharp blocks. In 1983, a fissure opened high on the south side of Etna. Within a few days, some restaurants and hotels in the skiing area of Sapienza were engulfed. By a miracle, some remained intact, though inaccessible. Above the resort, part of the ski lift system had almost disappeared. Cones of lava on the edge of the fissure now replaced the ski run markers. It'll be some years before downhill skiers use this particular trail. But the lava that brings misfortune to the skiers is to others advantage. It's a raw material that some people on Etna have learned to handle with centuries of practice.
They take a lump of lava out, and then they make ashtrays in lava and so on with souvenir of Etna and so, you know. They have molds, and they put the melted lava in it, and they make those crazy things. And those are sold to the tourists. This is a very old habit. I mean, they have done this in Vesuvius for years. They have done this in the 18th century, taking some lava and then pushing it together and making with some molds, making, for instance, a sign, this year and this eruption. And even if you ask, they can put your name specifically in the lava and so, you know, the melted things. And this is a big business.
1,000 feet below the souvenir makers, the wall of lava moves onward. Its deceptive appearance masks an inner temperature of some 1,700 degrees Fahrenheit.
We arrived just in time to see the lava coming behind this big building, this big school, and the whole building was really eaten by the lava flow. And then suddenly, in, I would say, 1 or 2 seconds, the whole building collapsed. And 15 minutes after, nothing was left. The whole thing was covered. And it was quite a big building, very impressive. To see how a lava flow is eating something is very impressive. When you see a lion eating an animal, it's nothing compared to a volcano that is eating a big building.
Volcano Watchers will return on Challenge.
It's the basis of us all. But what if something was altering that process? What if chemicals released every day into our environment were responsible? Assault on the Male, Sunday at 8 Mountain, 7 Pacific on the Discovery Channel.
Can you find the Oldsmobile in this picture? We'll give you another try. Here's a hint. It's competition red, has 4-wheel anti-lock brakes, and a hot V6 engine. It's the Achieva Sport Coupe. Surprise? It's your money.
Oh, hello, Mr. Umatsu. You know, your shipment is ready.
Hello, how are you?
Fine, sir. I just have a question about custom regulations for your country. Do I need an import license, a certificate of origin, 525V, or what?
Hello, how are you?
Fine. Could you hold?
All you gotta do to simplify international shipping is use FedEx.
Mr. Umatsu? Yes, sir. I'm fine. We're all fine.
The time has finally come for the cordless power roller from Wagner. Now you control the flow of paint, so the Wagner power roller can cut jobs in half. Smoothly and evenly, it can cover areas twice as fast. And cleanup is a snap, so you can finish one job and do another. Get your hands on a real value, because the value of Wagner keeps on rolling.
To everyone worried about the rising cost of quality health care, come in under the experience of one of America's largest managed healthcare networks. To everyone concerned about ensuring the future or having the security to reflect on the past, come in under the strength of billions of dollars in assets. Come in where dreams have been protected for 130 years under America's umbrella, the Travelers Insurance Companies.
A nomadic people, the birth of an island, 100 feet above the earth below ancient ice. Seek answers on the next Infinite Voyage. Tuesday at 11 Mountain, 10 Pacific on the Discovery Channel.
It's one of the great triumphs for business. While you once had to advertise in all of these directories, today, the Donnelly Directory does it with one book, saving you money. And your customers like Donnelly because it has all the information they need and takes less storage space. Life is good. Just one book, the Donnelly Directory.
When you want really comfortable shoes, when you want a pillow-soft walk, but with a lot more style, come to McCulloch's Wide Width Shoes in Brea. McCulloch's has Orange County's largest selection of soft spots, made in the USA, with only your comfort in mind. Soft spots, available in wide and extra wide widths up to size 12 at McCulloch's Wide Width Shoes, 706 East Imperial Highway in Brea.
Volcano Watchers now returns on Challenge.
With concern mounting for the safety of the rest of the resort, the authorities agreed to fund an experiment. Maurice and Katia proposed building barriers of ash to divert the flow away from residential areas. Hundreds of workers gathered to move the ash. Then, higher up the volcano, the lava channel was dynamited. Hard work and luck paid off. The lava changed course. The threat now shifted to small farms, orchards, and olive groves.
A lot of population is living around Etna. And the concentration of population in the lower slope of Etna is fantastic because the soil is very fertile again. So when those lava flows are going down, of course they destroy a lot of things, but they don't kill people. You know, it's a dangerous volcano, but not for people. I remember I have seen a lava flow coming on a building. The building was overwhelmed, completely destroyed. And the farmer was nearby on a hill looking at his home destroyed. And then when I went back at the same place 2 years ago, there was a new house on the lava flow that destroyed the house some years before. So people are living with this volcano, and in fact, they respect the volcano. They like their volcano.
Like it or not, 4 months passed and nearly $5 million were spent before the eruption subsided.
C'est quel numéro?
3420.
3420.
For thousands of years, most volcanic eruptions went unrecorded, many not even seen. Over 2,000 years ago, the Greek philosopher Plato first speculated that hot winds under the earth made contact with a burning river to throw up volcanoes. But since then, library shelves have gradually filled with accounts and theories on the subject. Of greater concern now is the prediction of eruptions and the control of side effects. The Japanese have become major contributors to these researches. As well as volcanoes, in Japan they contend with earthquakes, typhoons, landslides, and tidal waves. It can be a forbidding place. Surrounded by over 200 volcanoes, 70 of them active, they not only worship them, but have developed elaborate methods for surviving in their shadow. 35,000 people live beneath Usul volcano. An eruption in 1977 piled up huge amounts of ash in the crater and on its sides. 200 barriers have been built to hold back the ash, which turns into a lethal slurry after heavy rains. Between the people and the volcano stands a whole range of defenses. They filter out the rocks and trees carried down by the mud flows. When debris hits these pressure pads, alarms sound and remote-controlled cameras are switched on, enabling scientists to monitor the flows and assess the risks to the villages below. Around Japan, there are 22 observatories or research stations keeping a volcano watch. It's a huge responsibility, as millions of tourists visit active volcanoes each year. Bomb-proof bunkers line the rim of Aso volcano. The first sign of danger, visitors can run to them for cover. In the last big eruption here, an armor-plated tourist bus was destroyed. Luckily, only 3 people were injured. But that was at 7 in the morning. A few hours later, and there might have been thousands of victims. But volcanoes are not entirely a story of doom and disaster. Rheumatism can be eased by bathing in volcanic ash. Communal bathhouses, such a part of the Japanese scene, are heated by a volcanic source for free. A dozen power stations, too, driven by underground reservoirs of steam, are already operating in Japan. 15 other countries use this free source of energy. And if ways can be found to tap more of the energy locked up in the world's volcanoes, then concern about fossil and nuclear fuels would be lessened. Central Africa, the frontier between Zaire and Rwanda. A chain of active volcanoes marks the western arm of Africa's Great Rift. Here, the continent is tearing apart. 11,500 feet above sea level. One of the craters, Nyiragongo, contained in 1973 a fabled lake of boiling lava. That year, the Crafts decided to make their first African expedition.
We went on Nyiragongo, so you have to climb the volcanoes. That's not so long, 3, 4, 5 hours. And then it starts, because you arrive at the mouth of the volcano, and you have to go in the mouth of the volcano. So you are going down a cliff, not so high, 300 meters, but very bad rock. All kind of fumaroles went through and so on. It's not strong, it's terrible. So we went down and we stayed 15 days on a platform that was 300 meters lower than the rim. And we stayed on this platform for, yes, 2 weeks. So it was like being on the lid of a pressure cooker, you know, a very big one with magma inside. And this was a fantastic experience.
The soil is trembling, you have all these noises around you, like if you are in the bowl of the earth, you feel, really. And you are nothing. And this is very nice to feel, you see, to be just nothing when you are near a volcano.
The lava lake marks the top of a huge column of magma held inside the throat of the volcano at enormous pressure. On July 10, 1977, the volcano tore apart. 5 great fissures opened. The lake of boiling lava drained over the surrounding countryside.
The magma went out from the flank, from the lower flank of the volcano. and the lava flows were going very, very fast. Coming out from fissures, they were probably running at 60 to 70 kilometers per hour. And this was in the morning, where a lot of people were on the road going for the market, local market of Goma. And we think that around 100 people has been catched by the lava flow and were really, you know, overwhelmed by the lava flow and so on. And even we found even elephant molds later. There was a group of small elephants and they had no time to escape. And so the lava went around those elephants, and now you can see perfectly the elephant molds. Even the trunk, feet, everything is in the mold of the elephant. And this is probably one of the only basaltic activity with fluid lava that killed really quite a lot of people. Very unusual eruption, but not long, just 1 hour. We arrived, I would say, 2 days after everything was over.
For 5 years, the crater remained silent. Then, as suddenly as the lake emptied, it began to return. Through 2 great blowholes, 800 feet in diameter, jets of lava pumped 230 feet high. Within 3 months, the new lake rose 1,600 feet. Today, around Nyiragongo, the country holds its breath. When will the lake burst again?
Volcano Watchers will return on Challenge.
The Natural World, Sundays at 9 Mountain, 8 Pacific.
Boss, meet Larry. He's new.
Say, Larry, hypothetical question. How would you send a big, important shipment to a big, important client in, say, Hong Kong?
FedEx?
Right. Say someone didn't use FedEx, and that big, important shipment never got there. What would you call that someone, Larry?
Dope.
Right. Dope.
Big or small around the world, next time use FedEx.
If I would have known you were the dope, I wouldn't.
Would I risk washing this shirt in anything but Woolite? No way. I love this shirt. I just feel good when I wear it. I hope it always looks this great.
Trust Woolite to help keep clothes looking great. Original and spring soft scent.
Mustang. It is what it was, and more.
Seattle, average rainfall 39 inches. Phoenix, average high 103 degrees. Minneapolis, average low 7. Every year, Andersen windows and patio doors stand up to the harshest sun, the coldest wind, the hardest rain. So much for the law of averages.
Market took a hit today.
Yes, it's tough out there.
Oh, I don't know. That bar Cheers, it's packed every night. They're doing great.
I'm sure. My mutual fund is being mismanaged. I'm thinking of suing.
Oh, I know a great lawyer.
Really?
Yeah, Matlock.
Matlock?
Okay, he's a little old, but he's never lost a case. Undefeated.
Some people know CNBC is the first place for business news.
Oh, time for hard copy.
And some don't. CNBC, when you're tired of tuning out, tune in.
It's the basis of us all. But what if something was altering that process?
We have no way of knowing at the moment whether our children, how they're going to be affected when they grow up.
Affecting male development, causing a drop in sperm count, an increase in cancer. What if chemicals released every day into our environment were responsible? Assault on the Male, Sunday at 8 Mountain, 7 Pacific on the Discovery Channel. On the next Discovery Sunday, it is one of the most inhospitable places on Earth, yet each year they come. Penguins, by the thousands, witness the impossible plight of the iceberg. Then, she came, she saw, she flopped. Comedian Ruby Wax brings her unique brand of humor and tons of toilet paper to Russia.
Perestroika, my
On East Meets Wax. Sunday beginning at 10 Mountain, 9 Pacific on Discovery Sunday.
Volcano Watchers now returns on Challenge.
Indonesia has the dubious distinction of possessing 140 active volcanoes, the greatest concentration in the world. In compensation for the hazards they pose, volcanic ashes enrich the soil. Sometimes 3 crops of rice a year can be harvested from these highly fertile fields. But as the population grows, people are forced to live closer and closer to the rumbling giants. In April of 1982, a series of explosions shattered the calm of Galunggung volcano. For hundreds of thousands of people, it was the start of 9 months of hell. By mid-June, numerous eruptions had occurred. Then, 90 miles away and 36,000 feet high, a jumbo jet flew into the drifting ash. All 4 engines failed. With only 6 minutes left before hitting the sea, the crew restarted their engines. Skill, courage, and luck averted disaster in the air. Life on the ground got more difficult.
This activity was very spectacular because you had the big ash column going up every 3, 4, 5 days. And those ash columns were going at 10 kilometers, 15 kilometers high. And each eruption, each explosion was 3, 4, 5, 6 hours long. So this big ash column went up, and then a cloud of ash, of black ash, came slowly on us. And then in 10 minutes, everything was completely dark. Everything was dark, really.
The rice crop was destroyed. It will be years before this thick layer of ash can benefit the soil. Within a couple of miles of the volcano, destruction is absolute. Clouds of hot gases and ash have killed everything. But it's this kind of eruption that the crafts came to examine and to film.
It's really something very dangerous. But it was so fascinating to look at it and to try to be close to see better what is happening, that we don't worry about death or so, because it was so fantastic to see that you just forget, okay, it can happen, but we'll try.
Volcanic eruptions have killed over 30,000 people this century. Fortunately, villagers here took heed of warning tremors. They fled before their homes were subjected to a hail of burning rocks, ash, and gases. Despite the layers of volcanic debris, those with houses left standing fought to protect them through recurring eruptions.
When the sun is coming again, then people are taking all those ashes away, and the life is going again. It's really incredible how they find this in some way normal, you know. They had it so often during this eruption that was more than 9 months long, that it was quite something like a shower of rain, you know. Rain shower, here they have ash showers, and okay, why not?
After 50 eruptions in a year, the gathering ash posed a huge threat. With the onset of tropical storms, rivers of liquid mud would sweep the countryside. Thousands of farmers, unable to work their fields, were employed to build dikes and diversionary walls. They remembered the stories of the 1822 eruption, when 114 villages were swept away. It's estimated that this eruption of Galunggung cost Indonesia over $100 million, with 30,000 villagers being forced permanently from their homes. Warned by volcanologists of the dangers, the people around Galunggung escaped with their lives. But some people don't easily accept the advice of outsiders. In 1985, a volcano warning was ignored by the people of Colombia, South America. In one night, a river of mud overwhelmed 20,000 people. While in Indonesia, the Crafts visited more than 100 volcanoes. After 8 months of exploration, they reached an extraordinary volcanic lake. No boiling lava here, but its innocent appearance is deceptive. Kawah Ijan, or the Green Crater, is a corrosive soup composed of dilute sulfuric and hydrochloric acids. Fumaroles vent reeking volcanic gases into the air, and oozing from the earth comes hot, liquid sulfur. Even from such terrible surroundings, there are rich pickings for someone.
There, near the crater, you have people that are digging the sulfur. There is a sulfur mine, in fact, but very, very primitive sulfur mine. You know, those people are fantastic people because they carry 60 kilos or so of sulfur on their back, and they have to walk 30 kilometers with this on their back. And the money they receive is really nothing. And you see children 12 years old or 10 years old working there. It's absolutely awful, you know. The conditions are very bad.
The miners were shocked and dismayed to see their French visitors set out in a raft to conduct tests on this reservoir of acids.
We had an old rubber boat we bought in Paris, you know, in a second-hand shop of old rubber boat. We bought it for really, I would say, at this time, for 50 pounds, not more. Very old thing. So we inflated this rubber boat and we went on the lake. And it was really fantastic, you know, just to be on this lake of acid. And so we had also a cable with a bottle to see how deep was the lake and to take samples of the acid of the lake at different depths.
"65 feet, 330 feet, 500 feet. Each sample they brought up was more concentrated. Each sample took them further and further from the safety of the shore. The rubber raft held up remarkably well, suffering less than they did. Suddenly, the lake claimed a sample. Acid ate through the cable holding the collecting bottle, and it vanished. Their bizarre voyage was over. To a geologist, the present is the key to the past. One such key is the volcano La Piton de la Fournaise. It's on Reunion Island in the Indian Ocean. Along with Hawaii and the Pacific, it's the most active on Earth.
Reunion is an old friend of mine, one of my best friends. It's a volcano that is active around once a year and very nice activities. And I know about those eruptions immediately. I would say if an eruption starts, in less than 5 minutes, I will know it here in France through telephone or telex and so. And then I rush there because there are flights every day. And I like this volcano, yes, very much. And even we will make a museum of this volcano. I fell in love with Piton de la Fournaise volcano, yeah.
I think that the biggest risk is to go in a car, because this is a very dangerous place, you see. But it depends. When you are near an explosive volcano, the chance must be 50%. It's easier to escape from a lava flow than from a glowing cloud. Lava flow is going 40 kilometers per hour, so maybe we can escape if it's not too long and too fast. But with nuées ardentes, glowing clouds, means 300 kilometers per hour, cannot escape. It will go too fast. It will kill you.
The flows of molten basalt pose no threat to the humans on Reunion. But in their rush downhill, they consumed everything in their path. At the end of its journey, the lava meets the sea. Water flashes into steam as it hits the molten rock. New land forms and cools, only to be pounded and eroded by the sea in a process as old as the world.
Volcano Watchers will return on Challenge.
Thai, Thailand. Discover the treasures of a kingdom.
Hey, who's the big shot?
Richard Rouse.
VP of Finance?
He's in from New York.
Excuse me. I need a PC to run this on. Is there one I can use?
Oh, yes, sir. You can use mine.
No. I said a PC. This is a Windows disk.
Yeah, you can run that on here.
I didn't think this was a serious business computer.
Does that help?
Three years ago, Consumers Digest named the Oldsmobile 88 a Best Buy. The next year, they did it again. Ditto last year. And at the risk of sounding repetitive, that's right. Which makes Oldsmobile 88 the only full-size automobile to be a Best Buy 4 years running. It's your money.
Innocence is dead.
Do you mean we're all guilty, original sin, that sort of thing?
Innocence the maid.
There was a time when the British ruled the world.
Sure must think of us Africans in simplistic terms.
Yes. Oh, no, I mean...
But times are changing.
Kinjata!
Now, one man is going to open their eyes.
Watch where you're going! You aren't talking to me, are you, Sonny?
Sean Connery, Colin Friels, A Good Man in Africa, rated R. Starts Friday at select theaters.
On the roof of the world, the survival of a nomadic people, mysteries that intrigued Darwin, the birth of an island, Complex cycles, the evolution of life. 100 feet above the Earth, below ancient ice, scientists seek answers at the edge of the Earth. On the next infinite voyage, Tuesday at 11 Mountain, 10 Pacific on the Discovery Channel.
Let's listen in to Jack Rockwell, owner of Whittier Chrysler Plymouth and Whittier Dodge, conduct one of his famous sales meetings.
Gentlemen, our customers deserve great service and low prices. Treat them like family. That's how it has to work.
Okay, Grandpa, we'll really try.
You never can start them too young. Fantastic deals like this. Caravan Voyage only $12,994.
I wish we were big enough to drive.
No problem. Whittier Chrysler Plymouth and Whittier Dodge, the Maggi stores. Call us now.
It's haircut time, and your little angel isn't too excited about it. Where do you go?
Rainbow!
Rainbow Kids Hairstyling specializes in kids' hairstyles and gives them the special attention they need. Families have trusted Rainbow Kids Hairstyling's value, quality, and service since 1979, and kids love our regular and tearless bubblegum shampoo. Rainbow Kids Hairstyling does quality hairstyles for every member of your family, so for great hairstyles for everyone you know, where do you go?
Volcano Watchers now returns on Challenge.
The Hawaiian landscape is truly that of a volcanic giant. Evidence of lava flows, old and new, is everywhere. Gigantic fissures slice across the land, marking the places where magma, the compressed mixture of gases and molten rock, finally emerged as lava. The forces that built this volcanic island are colossal. It's an undersea mountain rising almost 33,000 feet from the ocean floor. Maurice and Katia followed in the footsteps of many scientists who since 1912 made Hawaii a base for their investigations. It was here, to their great satisfaction, that for the first time the crafts witnessed a new fissure opening.
What was wonderful was that we have seen really the beginning of a basaltic eruption. And this is fantastic because we had curtains of fires kilometers long. And this was in the early morning with the best light you can have, you see. So it was really fantastic.
This was my birthday. You know? It was a fantastic present. I will never have a present like this again. So fault system was 15 kilometers long, and you had curtains of fire all along this fault that formed, and big lava flows coming down. It's just the blood of the earth that is going down the mountain, but a lot of blood, really. I have seen so much that now I can take some risk, because even if it stopped tomorrow, it don't matter. I have seen enough. So all the things I'm looking at now, and I am only interested in volcanic eruptions, you know. Some people, some friends, and volcanic eruptions. I am very specialized. But I would say that if tomorrow I die on a volcano, not important. I have seen enough. And that's why I am very relaxed now when I go to see a volcano. So that's why some volcanologists and friends are considering me as really completely crazy. But I like to be crazy because life is crazy. And a volcano is crazy, so everything is crazy. And if it can stay crazy for many years, it's okay. At the meantime, I want to understand how volcanoes are working. Of course, you cannot really jump on the lava and go down the lava flow. That's my dream. I would like to make a canoe in Titan or something like that, you know, and to go down a lava flow in a canoe. That must be fantastic, taking temperatures and taking viscosity measurements and so on in the flow when going down. If we can find a company that will pay for the canoe, I will go in the canoe to go down the lava flow.
It's beautiful, it's aesthetic, it's also powerful, very, very powerful. Like a sea when you have a storm or so, it's the same. And it's because you are so small and no more something important that it's wonderful too.
I would say if I had died without looking at a volcanic eruption, I had died like an idiot, I would say. I would say that everybody has to see a volcanic eruption from near, and I cannot live without volcanic eruption.
Next, victims of incest fight back on Justice Files. Then investigate the buying and selling of human organs on Discovery Journal. Explore the possibilities coming up next on the Discovery Channel.
To everyone struggling to build a future in this era of challenge, uncertainty, and change, come in under the strength of billions of dollars in assets. To everyone wrestling with the rising costs of doing business, commercial insurance, workers' comp, come in under a program that has helped save American companies over $300 million. Come in under America's umbrella, the Travelers Insurance Companies.
Would I risk washing this shirt in anything but Woolite? No way. I love this shirt. I just feel good when I wear it. I hope it always looks this great.
Trust Woolite to help keep clothes looking great. Original and spring soft scent.
It's the basis of us all. But what if something was altering that process?
We have no way of knowing at the moment whether our children, how they're going to be affected when they grow up.
Affecting male development, causing a drop in sperm count and increase in cancer. What if chemicals released every day into our environment
were responsible. Assault on the Mail, Sunday at 8 Mountain, 7 Pacific on the Discovery Channel. On the next Discovery Sunday, it is one of the most inhospitable places on Earth, yet each year they come. Penguins, by the thousands, witness the impossible plight of the iceberg. Then, she came, she saw, she flopped. Comedian Ruby Wax brings her unique brand of humor and tons of toilet paper to Russia.
Perestroika, my
on East Meets Wax, Sunday beginning at 10 Mountain, 9 Pacific on Discovery Sunday.
Oh, hello, Mr. Umatsu. You know, your shipment is ready.
Hello, how are you?
Fine, sir. I just have a question about custom regulations for your country. Do I need an import license, a certificate of origin, 525V, or what?
Hello, how are you?
Fine. Could you hold?
All you gotta do
Hello,
to simplify international shipping is use FedEx.
Mr. Umatsu? Yes, sir. I'm fine. We're all fine.
Ford Mustang. It is what it was, and more.
On the roof of the world, the survival of a nomadic people, mysteries that intrigue Darwin, the birth of an island, complex cycles, the evolution of life, 100 feet above the Earth, below ancient ice. Scientists seek answers at the edge of the Earth on the next infinite voyage, Tuesday at 11 Mountain, 10 Pacific on the Discovery Channel.
Next, victims of incest fight back on Justice Files. Then investigate the buying and selling of human organs on Discovery Journal. Tomorrow, visit Venezuela on the Natural World. Coming up next on the Discovery Channel.
Crimes against children. They're easy to commit and hard to prove because the victims are often too scared to speak out and too young to be believed.
Colorado, 1990. The terrible truth hidden beneath the surface of a picture-perfect childhood comes flooding back, and four sisters decide to take their own father to court. Massachusetts, 1992. The children who attended this church kept a dark secret locked inside for 30 years. Now, a priest accused of abusing not one, but dozens of altar boys across the country may finally pay the price. Nevada, 1984. When 4- and 5-year-olds say they've been molested at preschool, their parents launch an investigation that leaves the owners of a daycare center insisting they are not child molesters, but the victims of a witch hunt. We'll look at crimes against children which took years to come to light, review the signs of sexual abuse with adult survivors, and Professor Arthur Miller of the Harvard Law School questions emotional trials that pit the protection of our kids against possibly innocent adults when we open the Justice Files.
I'm Jay Shadler. It seems like every time you open the paper, you are faced with another unspeakable crime committed against a child, or another public figure steps forward to say they were sexually molested growing up in America. Memories of abuse are sometimes so painful they remain buried for years before a major event brings them flooding back. Until recently, it was then too late to take legal action. But over the past 5 years, the urge to punish the perpetrators of these deeply damaging crimes has led to a series of groundbreaking court cases. Here's a story of 4 sisters, now grown women, who say their fathers scarred them in ways they weren't even aware of until decades later, when one by one, their lives started to fall apart. As they began to come to grips with what had happened, they determined to seek justice for themselves and in the name of all children.
Growing up, we looked real good. We looked perfect. We looked happy. We looked like the all-American family.
For years, this family from Colorado continued to look as if everything was okay. The 7 Rogers children, 3 sons and 4 daughters, grew up and left home to start their own families. But when the daughters reached their 30s and 40s, all 4 daughters had breakdowns. One by one, they all came forward with the same shocking story. As they grew up inside this house, their father had turned their childhoods into nightmares of bloody beatings and sexual abuse.
He would often come home drunk, and he'd sit down on the bed and wake me up, and he'd tell me, "Kiss me, Susie, kiss me." And there have been memories that have come back in the last year of him putting his tongue in my mouth at those times. It's like, you know, your body's being taken over, and you can't do anything about it.
The episodes of sexual abuse varied with each daughter. For some, they began in nursery school, for some, high school. But no one ever knew.
Why are memories of incest forgotten? I think the simple answer to that is that they're so unbearable.
Dr. Judith Herman has worked with hundreds of incest victims.
And you'll ask adult survivors later on, well, how did you cope when the actual rape was happening? You know, and they'll say, well, I chanted to myself. I recited the Lord's Prayer to myself. There was a pattern in the wallpaper, and I focused on one dot in the wallpaper. So the child may learn not only to anesthetize herself while the rape is happening, but afterwards to store the experience outside of ordinary awareness so that so that she can go on living and go on with some kind of illusion that she has a home.
And that was the illusion that Sharon worked to create. As she grew up, married, had 6 children of her own, launched a career in Boston as a college teacher and administrator, all the while unaware that she held within herself that time bomb of buried memories that could trigger responses she didn't understand.
My almost complete aversion to being sexual with my husband. It was very painful because he didn't do anything to, you know, make me feel afraid of him or want to push him away, and I just couldn't be touched, and that's been 25 years.
To keep her memories from surfacing as she moved through life, Sharon remained numb to all her feelings.
And it became clear that that had a connection to my childhood. Oh, here it is.
Once Sharon entered intensive therapy, the memories began to come back. Meanwhile, 3,000 miles away in California, Sharon's sister Sue was struggling with sexual fears she didn't understand. When those fears broke up her marriage, Sue went into a deep depression that put her into a psychiatric hospital. And that's when Sue's childhood memories came back.
I was beginning to experience feelings of penetration in my vagina. I would feel very, very desperate. And in my mind, I would see myself just taking a knife and shoving it up and digging out all my insides, just to relieve the feeling that, you know, that I was being raped.
The 3rd Rogers daughter, Elizabeth, was the next to break down and enter a psychiatric hospital. The 4th and youngest daughter, who didn't feel able to participate in our report, was admitted for psychiatric care on 3 separate occasions. Because keeping a family lie had devastated their lives, they felt they had to expose it. And that meant finding some way of confronting their father. Elizabeth was the first to try to confront him by writing him a letter.
You kissed me, and then your hands began to roam over my breast and stomach. I am repulsed by this memory. You had no right at all to touch me like you did. I hate you for that. I'm giving you this memory. It's yours. I was not responsible for it.
Elizabeth never heard back from her father. And Ed Rogers' youngest daughter, the daughter we've agreed not to identify, had also written to him for help, saying she had run up huge hospital and therapy bills trying to recover from the abuse. Through his lawyer, he denied her allegations and refused her request for help. Finally, the other two daughters, Sharon and Sue, frustrated by their father's refusal to deal with them in any way within the family structure, considered a major step that would assure that the secret couldn't simply be buried again.
I thought, I'll fight with him in his own system. He respects the legal system. He's a law enforcement man. He knows how to defend himself. And I'll bring a lawyer and he'll bring a lawyer and we'll see what the truth is.
Sharon and Sue filed suit against their father for emotional, physical, sexual, and incestual abuse. They were asking compensation for what the abuse cost them in therapy and hospital bills, lost work, and emotional damage. Not only did he deny the charges, he said that no matter what, it was too late for his daughters to sue him. Sharon and Sue's lawyers were determined to break down the barrier that keeps so many incest victims locked out of the courts. They countered Rogers' statute of limitations defense by saying that in this kind of case, a provision called delayed discovery should apply. Up until now, very few judges have allowed that argument in incest cases. What moved this case into the forefront of the law is that Judge William Myers did.
These two women suppressed what occurred to them when they were very young, and they held it within themselves for a period of 25 to 30 years. And it wasn't until their lives began falling apart that they put together the connection of the injury itself and who caused the injury. And this meant they have 2 years from that date to bring the claim, file their complaint, and pursue the remedy.
In their pretrial questioning, all four daughters came forward to present evidence in vivid detail. These words, read by a narrator from the court transcript, are from the youngest daughter.
Then he put his penis inside of me, and I screamed that it hurt. I said, "It hurts." And I said, "Please, Dad, don't hurt me." And he saw that I was bleeding, and he took his penis out like it was a big bother.
One day after listening to this deposition, Ed Rogers disappeared. The judge ruled that the trial would proceed on schedule, and so the jury returned their verdict, awarding the sisters $2.3 million for what their abuse cost them. All four daughters agreed that despite the trauma of the trial and the release of a family secret, they felt they had won a certain control over their lives they had never known before.
I was able to stand up and to face and hold and embrace that little girl that was inside of me. I was able to hold her and say, somebody knows now.
All four Rogers sisters continue to try to put their past behind them. Their father resurfaced after the 1990 guilty verdict in a Colorado town near where they grew up and categorically denied having ever raped or sodomized any of his children. He declined an on-camera interview, but his son Ed Rogers Jr. told us that he regrets that Sue, Sharon, Elizabeth, and Mary have cut off all contact with their mother and brothers. He believes that while none of them had a picture-perfect childhood, psychiatrists have unduly influenced his sisters to remember terrible things that may never have actually happened. It's a charge that's being heard more frequently, as changes in statute of limitations laws have allowed suppressed memories into the courtroom, sometimes decades after an alleged crime. Of the millions of people who are sexually abused as children, it's estimated that as many as 60% will repress the memory for years. A cottage industry has developed to help them recover, with clinics like this one advertising on the radio.
You too can find the joy of living again. Remember and heal. Call 1-800-FORGIVE.
They never think that their children are going to grow up and fight back.
But parents like Jack and Pat Collier say they too are victims of a growing hysteria.
In June, early June of 1989, I received a letter from Donna, which accused me of sexual abuse.
At 25, the Collier's younger daughter took her father to court, claiming that he had fondled and raped her repeatedly, going all the way back to infancy. A jury found Collier not guilty after the couple's oldest daughter took her father's side, and expert witness Elizabeth Loftus
testified that therapists can easily implant false memories in the minds of vulnerable patients.
When you listen to somebody describe a memory that's false, it can sound as detailed, as confident, as convincing as a genuine memory. And it is virtually impossible for any psychologist, psychiatrist, clairvoyant to tell the difference without corroboration.
In 1992, in reaction to the rise of charges and lawsuits, a number of accused parents formed the False Memory Syndrome Foundation. Within a year, over 3,700 people had joined. As suppressed memories bubble to the surface, courts are trying to sort the genuine ones from the false ones. Today, many have accepted the concept of the suppressed memory syndrome as the only defense a child might have against an abusive parent.
No one wants to say that their father sexually abused them. Not a person in the world that I've ever met wants to say that.
In our next case, dozens of men and women across the country discover they were abused as children by the same person. When the Justice Files returns. More than a dozen states allow adults to bring charges within 3 years of remembering childhood abuse.
This time around, you'll have it all. You'll catch the pass, catch the girl, catch the drift, catch the dream. Your time has come this time around, because everything's possible this time around.
What tire do you trust in the wet? A tire that removes over 2 gallons of water per second from under the tread. The all-season MX4, another engineering splash from Michelin.
To prove that Armor All with Dust That X keeps your dash looking clean, we're here at the Desierto 500. Well, there you have it. Armor All with Dust That X keeps your dash looking clean.
On the next Discovery Sunday, it is one of the most inhospitable places on Earth, yet each year they come. Penguins by the thousands witness the impossible plight of the iceberg. Then, she came, she saw, she flopped. Comedian Ruby Wax brings her unique brand of humor and tons of toilet paper to Russia.
Perestroika, my
On East Meets Wax, Sunday beginning at 10 Mountain, 9 Pacific on Discovery Sunday.
Do you believe in magic? Not the sleight of hand magic, but magic where dreams come true. That's why we call Whittier, Chrysler, Plymouth, and Whittier Dodge the magic stores. When we say you'll get the best deals on new and used cars, it's not an illusion. And top quality service from some of the nicest people in town is no mirage. At Whittier, Chrysler, Plymouth, and Whittier Dodge, our magic make your dreams come true. Come in and see for yourself or call today, 1-800-99-MAGIC or 1-800-94-DODGE.
Kids have been growing up with Weisner Stride-Rite shoes for 26 years, and now during our first time back-to-school sale, you'll save 20% on selected styles from our new Stride-Rite inventory and 50% on our clearance merchandise. With over 40 name brands of school, dance, dress, and tennis shoes from Stride-Rite, Nike, dance shoes, and Naturalizer, you're sure to find the fit and style you both like. When you visit, you'll receive a Weisner coupon for $5 off your next purchase and a 13th pair free card. Although our shoes are built to last, the sale won't at Weisner Stride-Rite shoes in Yorba Linda.
You couldn't dream up our next story. You wouldn't want to. It started with one man's terrible memories of a childhood trauma and ended with more than 100 victims who'd suffered at the hands of the same Catholic priest, coming forward to confront a church that knew but did nothing to stop him.
I wasn't happy, but I should have been, and that's what started to make me remember.
As Frank Fitzpatrick tells it, a dark shadow kept flickering over his picture-perfect life. A pain that under therapy kept drawing Fitzpatrick back 30 years to the innocent days of St. Mary's Grammar School. Back toward a young priest of great vitality and charm who became a kind of magnet for the children.
You know, I wanted to become a priest because I thought he was such a wonderful person.
He was Father James Porter, overseer of the altar boys, like Frank. He organized games for the children, and Fitzpatrick remembered even took them on trips.
He was supposed to be taking us to a game of some kind at Boston Garden. I remember being brought to this house. I looked out the window and I said, "Oh, where's Boston Garden?" And it wasn't in sight.
At last, Frank Fitzpatrick had a memory that would unlock all the darkness in his life of a day when a beloved priest would offer an unsuspecting little boy a strange-tasting piece of mincemeat pie.
Father Porter told me I should eat it too. I was going to hurt his feelings if I didn't eat it, so I ate some more. And then the next thing I knew, I woke up and Father Porter was laying on top of me, sodomizing me.
How old were you when it happened?
12.
It never occurred to you to tell anybody?
At that time, a priest was something that was so high above normal mortal human beings that it was not conceivable that we'd ever tell on a priest, because it was like, how can you tell on God, When I first started getting those feelings, I knew I had to do something to find out what happened to Porter.
So Frank Fitzpatrick set out on the trail of Father James Porter. First, he went to the diocese just to find out Porter's middle name, but the head of the diocese, Monsignor Oliveira, refused.
Monsignor Oliveira told me, maybe it's best to leave it in the hands of the Lord.
So Fitzpatrick spent hours of his own time culling through documents, searching through old newspapers for any clue to Porter's whereabouts. He also placed a simple ad in the local paper, asking only, "Remember Father Porter?" Within days, a letter arrived. "Dear Frank," it said, what have you got?
I, for one, am very familiar with Father Porter and his antics, or should I say insanity. He locked the door at the rectory and would get me in there and have you sit on his lap, take your pants down. He'd have his tongue down your throat, his hands up your genitals. And I felt that there must be something wrong with me.
Did you tell anyone else?
I told my best friend, Judy. I said, Father Porter just did this to me. And she looked at me and she was stunned. She said, he did that to me, too.
He threw me on the floor and raped me once or twice a week.
Kept telling me that God was watching.
One by one, the former children of St. Mary's decided to come forward. So far, more than 60 victims have given their names to Frank Fitzpatrick. 22 of them gathered together for us for the first time to tell the story.
Mine happened when I was in the hospital. I was in an automobile accident. And he came to tell me that, that my uncle died. And that's when he started on me.
He didn't choose anybody in particular. He chose everybody. This guy destroyed hundreds of children's childhood. He took the child right out of them and ripped it out. I mean, he molested or raped every kid he could get his hands on.
John Robitaille had also repressed his memories 30 years when he was driving home and a radio report on Frank Fitzpatrick mentioned Porter's name.
I heard the name Father James Porter, and I just started freaking out.
His classmates have told him that they remember seeing him lying bleeding on the shower floor. He remembers being one of Porter's favorites, raped once a week for nearly 2 years. And John Robitaille says there was someone else at the church, another priest, who looked in and saw him.
He saw me on the floor with Father Porter in the basement of the rectory. And rather than helping me, he turned his back and left.
It was Father Annunziato?
Yes, it was.
Father Armando Annunziato, the other young priest at the parish. He was one of the first people Frank Fitzpatrick sought out in his search for Father Porter. But Annunziato told Fitzpatrick he was ignorant of it all, both Porter's whereabouts now, and that he had only vague suspicions about Porter all those years ago. The people in this room say Annunziato was lying.
How many of you know firsthand that Father Annunziato knew, that he saw?
Diane, he walked in while I was being raped by Father Porter on a wrestling mat. There was, for a moment, a little bit of hope that this might stop, and the door very slowly shut.
Father Annunziato took a leave of absence after the story broke. So we tracked him down to try to get some answers for Father Porter's victims.
Talk to me just for a minute, please. So, we've talked to some of Father Porter's victims, and they say that you walked in the room and you saw them being abused. They want to know why you didn't protect them. They trusted you.
While Father Annunziato remains silent as he did 30 years ago, the victims tell of lives wrecked by addiction and depression.
I've spent 30 years building walls, losing my religion, losing my ability to make strong relationships, my ability to trust.
I attempted suicide 3 times.
And you're sure it was this?
This, there is no question.
He came into my house, into my bedroom, with my parents on the other side of the wall, not even a door blocking the room, just an archway, and he would come in and sit on my bed and take my hand and put my hand down his pants. I couldn't get away from this guy.
That's Peter Calderon. This is his father, Joseph.
Knowing perhaps I could have done more in the past, after all these years, I said, I will not sit back now.
But Joseph Calderon did try 30 years ago when finally he suspected something was wrong. Calderon and a handful of other parents, each thinking they were alone, forced the bishop to move James Porter out of North Attleboro, only to discover now that the church simply placed him in a neighboring parish, Fall River, and then another one, New Bedford, where hundreds more children were available over the next 4 years.
They saved the children of North Attleboro, at least after a few hundred, they saved the children of North Attleboro, and then they damned the children of Fall River and subsequently New Bedford.
When we come back, some answers to the questions, where were the parents, where was the church, and where is Father Porter? Stay with us.
This portion of Discovery is brought to you in part by Office Depot.
Sir, there's no question that...
Sales definitely look good next quarter.
Splendid.
Call line 3, Miss Gray.
Hello? Jason.
Taking care of business. America's future belongs to America's students, and giving your child a good education is job #1. So at Office Depot, we make it our job to give you a great selection of school supplies at guaranteed low prices. Office Depot, from the classroom to the boardroom.
This talk show had a congressman who was still against gun control.
Really?
Yeah.
That's surprising. After JR got shot, I figured everyone would be for it. I mean, wake up, America.
I hear this new bill will force us to carpool to work.
Well, you know, Fred and Barney have been riding to the quarry together for years.
Restrooms?
I'll help you. Some people know CNBC is the first place for intelligent talk.
Oh, home shopping channel.
And some don't. CNBC, when you're tired of tuning out, tune in.
Hi from Snapple. A detective from Arizona writes, I'm an avid buyer of Snapple, but during my last purchase, I found the label on upside down. You're kidding.
I would like to say that I think it's a great product. Everybody makes mistakes, so the label's not really a big deal, and I just want to let them know that there was a little bit of error, and it's no big deal.
Sorry about the upside-down label, Charles. At Snapple, we don't like mistakes either. We are working hard to ensure that a similar error will not occur. Thank you.
We're giving you an inside look at Ford Motor Company's latest achievement. Our best designers and engineers around the world have worked together to create a car for the world. With safety features that are years ahead of today's safety standards. And the Micron air filtration system that keeps the air inside fresh no matter what it's like outside. A computerized transmission that adjusts to any driving condition. And a Duratec V6 engine that can go 100,000 miles before its first tune-up. World-class features in a more affordable class of car, which will be sold in 75 countries, including ours. Ford Contour and Mercury Mystique. Coming September 29th.
It's the basis of us all. But what if something was altering that process?
We have no way of knowing at the moment whether our children, how they're going to be affected when they grow up.
Affecting male development, causing a drop in sperm count, and increase in cancer. What if chemicals released every day into our environment were responsible? Assault on the Male, Sunday at 8 Mountain, 7 Pacific on the Discovery Channel. On the next Discovery Sunday, it is one of the most inhospitable places on Earth, yet each year they come. Penguins, by the thousands, witness the impossible plight of the iceberg. Then, she came, she saw, she flopped. Comedian Ruby Wax brings her unique brand of humor and tons of toilet paper to Russia.
Perestroika, my
On East Meets Wax. Sunday beginning at 10 Mountain, 9 Pacific on Discovery Sunday.
30 years ago, a number of children in North Attleboro, Massachusetts, lived with a sickening secret. Too ashamed to tell anyone, they were being sexually abused by a priest the whole community looked up to. When some parents finally learned what was going on and complained, the church responded by moving Father Porter from parish to parish, gradually spreading the fear and pain to young people all over the United States.
Even though the church was still shutting every door in his face, Frank Fitzpatrick refused to give up on his search for James Porter. Then one day, as he was poring through old newspaper files, he found in a newspaper an obituary. William Porter had died, the article said, leaving behind a son, James, who lived in Oakdale, Minnesota. So Fitzpatrick called information and got the telephone number, and then set up his tape recorder.
Hi, this is Frank Fitzpatrick. Yes? From North Attleboro. Yeah?
James Porter made no attempt at denial.
One question, why did you do that kind of thing? Who knows? You have anything to say to me about it? You know, what can I say? You're sorry? Am I? Of course. Very. Very, very, very. That's why it was taken care of. When did you stop molesting children? When did you stop? Well, as far as I know now, I mean, for sure, it's way back in the, around 67. 67? Okay.
1967. That was when additional complaints from the parents in New Bedford finally led to his departure from the priesthood. The church had sent Porter for therapy to this retreat in New Mexico, though no therapy was offered to his victims. While Porter was being treated, he worked in this parish in southern New Mexico, but he was moved out after allegedly molesting boys on a church-owned boat. The men, who were 7 and 8 at the time, have not yet spoken out. Bruce Pasternak is their attorney.
He was as out of control in New Mexico as he had been in Massachusetts.
Pasternak also alleges that Porter served as a chaplain to a crippled children's hospital and abused the children there.
He was caught sodomizing a child who had recently had surgery and was confined to a body cast.
But a year later, there was no mention of this when the church sent out its letter of recommendation, saying after his treatment, Porter shows every sign of having recovered remarkably. The letter was addressed to Bemidji, a quiet resort town in northern Minnesota. Dan Dow, Jim Grimm, and brothers Leo and Mark Smith are all former altar boys who told of their beguiling basketball coach and priest who did unspeakable things to children.
Any opportunity that he had to abuse someone, you know, in any way that you can imagine, he did it.
To find out that they knew about it before he was here, and that what we went through should never have happened, and looking back on it and saying, you know, my childhood may have been different had I not been abused by this guy.
He told me that what was going on was part of becoming a man in the church. That this was part of becoming a better Catholic.
What the church must always be, the healing agent. I mean, the law is there to enforce the law, and we should never impede that. But
do you understand? These people say, excuse me, but they say they can't be healed until their church is fighting for them.
And I think we are. I think we are beginning to.
And yet, when Fitzpatrick first went public, Cardinal Bernard Law of Boston responded by attacking the messengers, the media.
By all means, let's call down God's power on the media.
Porter had left the priesthood and married. Since 1974, he'd been a house husband and tutoring children at a local church in Oakdale, Minnesota. He also has 4 children of his own. The police in Oakdale now say they have reports from 3 people, all 3 neighbors at Porter's first residence. A man and 2 women who say Porter abused them well after 1974.
I want him to
come out and say, yes, I did still have this problem, and yes, it does reoccur.
For the first time, Porter's former babysitter is speaking out. She says she was a young teenager when the final incident of abuse occurred. He called her into the bedroom, put her hands on him. It was 1981.
He had an erection, and I just kind of stood there in shock for a few, or I guess I don't know how long, if it was a few minutes.
Ann says she ran home, never to return to the Porter house again. Like the others, she told no one, thinking she was alone. And so, from Massachusetts to New Mexico to Minnesota, one by one, the victims of James Porter are coming forward, calling for justice from him and from the church, they say, turned away.
I've been alone for 32 years until I saw Frank on television. And I've got a family now. But up until that time, I thought I was alone. I owe, I don't know how much to Frank, because without his efforts, I wouldn't be able to deal with my pain right now.
The law finally caught up with Father James Porter in Minnesota, where he was sentenced to 6 months in jail for molesting his children's babysitter and faced criminal and civil charges around the country.
The indictments include sexual contact with both male and female victims under the ages of 16 as well as under the ages of 14, acts of sodomy, acts of fellatio.
After Porter's conviction, he was flown to Massachusetts to hear 46 counts of molestation and rape. 27 individuals in Minnesota and New Mexico also brought suits against the former priest.
It's a substantial acknowledgement by the church that what happened here was wrong and that it shouldn't have happened.
And in 1993, the Catholic diocese, where Frank Fitzpatrick and many others served as altar boys and girls, settled out of court with 68 Porter victims for a reported $5 million.
Father Porter is not an isolated case. One perpetrator can molest hundreds and hundreds of kids before they get caught. And they can go on for years and years like Porter did until they're stopped.
Nationwide, the church faces an estimated $1 billion in lawsuits stemming from the sexual abuse of children by priests.
There have been 400 priests or brothers reported in the last 10 years. It's been an average of one case every 10 days in the last decade. The church has lost $400 million in legal settlements, legal costs, attorney's fees, and medical costs. That's a lot of money.
Church officials point out that only a small percentage of the 53,000 priests in America have been identified as pedophiles. But critics say the church's pattern of sending them for treatment that rarely works and returning offenders to unsuspecting parishes in the presence of trusting children provides a temptation that is hard to resist.
If you're an alcoholic, you don't want to work in a bar. In fact, I would make the point that the child is the pedophile in a sense what the bottle of alcohol is to the alcoholic.
In 1993, the Pope acknowledged the problem and opened the door for American bishops to start addressing the crisis of confidence it has caused for many Catholics. Frank Fitzpatrick is determined to keep the church doors open. He's heard from 440 people who say they've been abused by priests and has started a newsletter aimed at bringing them together to take action against their attackers.
The scandals aren't going to stop until they take very, very conclusive and definite steps to end it once and for all, as they should have done when they first heard about it years and years ago.
But even if the faithful are no longer content to leave judgment to a higher power, there are indications that change will be slow to come.
Father Annunziato, we've talked to...
Remember Father Annunziato? Many recalled how he closed his eyes to their pain and fear at Porter's hands. Well, he was promoted to Monsignor in 1993. The local bishop defended the action, saying the minds of Father Porter's victims must have been playing tricks on them. When the Justice Files returns, the owners of a Nevada preschool are accused of abusing the children in their care and are tried in the court of public opinion.
It's the basis of us all. But what if something was altering that process? What if chemicals released every day into our environment were responsible? Assault on the Male, Sunday at 8 Mountain, 7 Pacific on the Discovery Channel.
This time around, we can love without pain. There'll be nothing to fear, no need to explain. You'll know who I was. I'll know who you are. And together, we can be what's never been. Because everything's possible this time around.
I'm a nurse. And I'm a nurse first, and I'm an Aetna employee second. The care is first. You know, is that patient being handled appropriately? I would hope that we would all care about patients the way we would ourselves or our own family members. And that's the way I see it. That, you know, that's my job.
There are many cars built safe enough, luxurious enough, and powerful enough to let you drive to the ends of the earth. But only one that makes you want to take the trip. Presenting the BMW 5 Series.
A nomadic people, the birth of an island, 100 feet above the earth, below ancient ice. Seek answers on the next Infinite Voyage, Tuesday at 11 Mountain, 10 Pacific on the Discovery Channel.
This is my office, and the racetrack's where I put in a hard day's work. The guys at Joe McPherson Ford work hard to give you great service, great deals, and the kind of attention you expect from winners. This team's tough to beat.
Take a tip from IndyCar driver Robbie Gordon. Visit the winning team at Joe McPherson Ford, conveniently located at the Tustin Ranch Road exit off the Santa Ana Freeway in the Tustin Auto Center. And you'll be a winner, too.
McCulloch's wide-width shoes knows that whether you're helping people, feeding people, or just love to walk, Nursemates are the shoes of choice. Nursemates. So comfortable, you'll want to wear them everywhere. Well, almost everywhere. For a full selection of Nursemates in wide and extra wide widths, come to McCulloch's wide-width shoes at 706 East Imperial Highway in Brea.
It's a foundation of our justice system, innocent until proven guilty. But in the emotional atmosphere surrounding allegations of child abuse, one Nevada town reached final judgment before the case even got to court.
I was the president of the Reno Chamber Orchestra. Lillian was a board member. Our whole life was evolved around concerts and involvement in the community affairs and our school. That was really our life.
Reuben and Lillian Babayan found in Reno, Nevada, a world of refinement they didn't expect. They ran a prestigious Montessori school and saw its enrollment grow from 10 to 250. Many parents considered this to be the finest private school in the city. But in 1984, the Babayans' world collapsed when a whisper of possible sex abuse at the school turned into a witch hunt, and Reuben Babayan became the accused. It started when a 4-year-old student began having behavioral problems in the classroom and nightmares at home. The little girl, referred to as Jane Doe No. 1, was taken to see a therapist who concluded that the child had knowledge of sex far beyond her years and therefore probably had been molested, possibly at school. One by one, kids were pulled out of class and questioned.
The parents were all obviously very anxious. The hysteria was building up. You could just see there was a storm that was developing around us.
Investigators for the civil attorneys went knocking on doors, telling parents that their children should be evaluated by a therapist for possible sexual abuse. Most of them were directed here to the Special Children's Clinic. Kids walked in this door denying that anything had happened, but by the time they walked out, the therapist inside had concluded that almost all of the kids had been molested.
Miss Milbat came out with a piece of paper and laid it on the table. Presented me this picture of a tree, and she said, "Don't you see, this is a phallic symbol that your child has drawn." And then she brought out a second piece of paper. Look at this one. I asked her to draw the face of a man, and she drew the face of a man, drew little dots on it, and then quickly put her hand over it. Your daughter put her hand over it to cover it up. That means that she was covering up the pubic hair of a man. And I was aghast at this. But not being a professional in this area, I thought, geez, you must know more than I do. So based upon those two pictures that my child had drawn, she said, your child has been molested.
Babayan was painted a modern-day Dracula. There were rumors he had snake pits in his backyard, and outrageous suggestions that child molesting was somehow characteristic of his Armenian culture. At one point, even his children, then ages 11 and 13, were said to have participated in the abuse.
There was not a day where we dared to open the newspaper and not see photos and front-page headlines.
The worst of it came on Friday, May 4th, 1984. Arrest warrants were issued, and soon a grand jury would hand down a series of indictments accusing Reuben Babayan and two of his employees of sexually molesting children, criminal charges that carried a possible life sentence.
The case was totally out of hand.
Robert Schuweiler was the judge who presided over the Babayan case and says there is much the DA's office never told the grand jury. For example, when this therapist, Dr. William Terry, testified that kids were being molested, the grand jury was never told that he believed his own daughter was a victim. In fact, Terry would later sue the school for $1 million. His blatant conflict of interest should have been disclosed. It might also explain why he seemed to ask the kids so many leading questions.
Did you ever try and put his penis in your bottom? Would he lay on top of you? Did he jump, kind of move up and down on you when he did that? He did. Wow.
Court-appointed experts reviewed hours of these videotaped interviews by Terry and other therapists. They found them to be so coercive and so leading that it was often hard to tell if the accusations were coming from the kids or from the therapists. Also disturbing, these medical reports never presented to the grand jury. Experts say the kind of sexual penetration alleged by the therapists and prosecutors would surely have left physical evidence. These medical reports found none. And remember how this all started with Jane Doe number 1? Well, there's more to that story too that the grand jury never heard. Playing with anatomically correct dolls, the little 4-year-old girl had demonstrated a knowledge of sex beyond her years. That led her therapist to believe she had been molested. The grand jury was never told that her father managed this porno shop, kept pornography at home, including child pornography, and brought customers to the house to look at materials when they were too embarrassed to come to the store. His daughter even drew a picture of their home and told a therapist there was a secret inside she couldn't talk about.
We had information from people trained in the discipline who came in and took an oath before the grand jury and testified as to their opinions.
But two of those therapists had children who attended the school and believed those children to have been molested. Do you think those therapists could possibly have been objective about this?
They said they were.
Judge Schuweiler disagreed and eventually threw the whole case out, accusing the prosecution of bowing to public pressure and mishandling the investigation. His decision to dismiss the charges was upheld by the Nevada Supreme Court. The Babayans left Reno when they were forced to give up their school, and their son and daughter were not allowed to continue their education there.
If I were to ask to sit down and really think hard and dream up of the most nightmarish and horrible thing that could happen to my life, I could not have come up with this scenario.
The Babayan family moved to Southern California, where by 1993 they were finally legally clear to try to pick up the pieces of their lives. They declined an on-camera interview, but told us that to this day, not one of the parents has ever apologized, even after it became apparent that the case was a travesty of justice. But Reno is not alone. By 1993, Edenton, North Carolina's Little Rascals Daycare Center case had turned neighbor against neighbor. Owners Bob and Betsy Kelly and 4 of their workers were accused of running a house of horrors where small children were raped and forced to have sex with each other while photographs were taken.
Some of these children will never recover.
Bob's trial came first and hinged on the testimony of 12 children. Many had initially denied that anything had happened to them, and the defense contended that only after months of repeated questioning were they willing to tell therapists whatever they wanted to hear.
Guilty of taking indecent liberties with a child, guilty of crime against nature. Is that your verdict? So say you all.
Kelly was convicted and sentenced to 12 consecutive life terms, despite a complete lack of hard evidence. Trials have pitted kids against their caretakers in more than 100 communities since the notorious McMartin preschool case began in 1983. But now some of the verdicts are being overturned.
I am innocent, and I stand by the record that bears that out. And I just can't wait to be with my family again.
Prosecutors insist she was proven guilty. But in May 1993, New Jersey daycare center worker Margaret Kelly Michaels was freed after 5 years in prison. An appeals court determined the way the children's testimony was secured had tainted the process to such an extent that she had not received a fair trial. Today, everyone in America is on the lookout for child abuse, but the new vigilance may take an unacceptable toll.
It's like the tuna fisherman throwing out his net. He catches tuna fish, but he also catches and kills a lot of innocent animals.
All of the defendants in the Little Rascals case proclaim their innocence, and those already convicted will appeal. Are these innocent children pawns in adult games of mistrust and mass hysteria? Their parents clearly did not see it that way.
These children, having been heard, are speaking for children everywhere that are not heard ever.
We'll look at the larger issues all of these cases raise and hear from our legal expert, Professor Arthur Miller of the Harvard Law School, when the Justice Files continues. The Supreme Court has criticized the use of videotape, one-way mirrors, and closed-circuit TV in molestation trials, saying defendants are entitled to a face-to-face confrontation with the children who accuse them.
The Natural World, Sundays at 9 Mountain, 8 Pacific.
Nobody does it like you, the way that you do. Does it like you?
It is time for the big question. What is the extra in Mickey D's Extra Value Meals? Now, some think it's a money thing, $2.99 to be exact. Then there are the brothers and sisters into variety. See, you can get 4 $2.99 Extra Value meals, like Big Mac, cheeseburger, quarter pounder with cheese, and McChicken. And for a large portion of folks, it's the large portion of those world-famous golden fries. But for me,
what you want, what you want, what you want is what you get at McDonald's today.
You know what I'm saying?
How does your Genie screwdriver door opener work?
Let me see. I'll be right back, okay?
When we hear the sound of the door, it means Dad's come home.
Once I caught a catfish about this big.
I really can't. I don't know how it turns, you know?
Kara goes in and out with her bike. Jacob's in and out. All the kids are in and out.
You got this big screw, see? And it's real long, and the thing just turns like that.
Any mom with a lot of kids could use a Genie.
Genie screwdriver, built for a lifetime.
No two people are exactly alike.
Hi.
While Bob likes the high gloss shine of original Armor All Protectant, Fred prefers new low gloss Armor All with the rich, deep finish.
I gotta be me.
Either way, it's your choice. Only from Armor All.
Did you reserve the car with Hertz?
not exactly, but it's a good deal.
Are they as fast as Hertz?
Not exactly, but what's the rush? We're on vacation.
Dad, are we lost? Hertz gives you computerized directions.
Honey, this is not exactly Hertz, okay?
I hope they have the same emergency road service as Hertz.
Not exactly. In Rent-A-Car, there's Hertz, and there's not exactly. Make sure you choose the right one.
Are you sure this is the way to the hotel?
Not exactly.
Did you hear that?
On the next Discovery Sunday, it is one of the most inhospitable places on Earth, yet each year they come. Penguins, by the thousands, witness the impossible plight of the iceberg. Then, she came, she saw, she flopped. Comedian Ruby Wax brings her unique brand of humor and tons of toilet paper to Russia.
Perestroika, my
On East Meets Wax, Sunday beginning at 10 Mountain, 9 Pacific on Discovery Sunday.
As if the number of people coming forward with ugly memories of child molestation wasn't shocking enough, did you know a growing network of psychotherapists believes their patients were abused in satanic rituals?
Hello, Satan. Hello, Satan.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Pretty good.
Vanessa originally sought psychiatric help for eating disorders and depression. But as she got deeper into her therapy, she began to remember episodes of sexual abuse at the hands of her father and a satanic cult.
One time there was a baby there, and they stabbed the baby and killed it, and we all had to drink blood.
Sounds incredible? Her father says it's not true. But what can possibly explain all the other patients with the same childhood memories of devil worship, human sacrifice, and brutal tortures, like being buried alive?
I hate you. I hate you. How could you do those things to me?
How widespread are we talking?
At least tens of thousands of victims, probably hundreds of thousands.
The FBI says grisly remains have been uncovered in rare, isolated cases, but a 7-year study turned up, quote, little or no evidence of organized satanic conspiracies.
I can tell you that as a therapist, I certainly have seen a number of cases that I truly feel to be legitimate and to have had some corroborative evidence. By that I mean other family members have very, very definite memories.
Whether or not these memories of satanic ritual abuse are true, there is a growing belief that something terrible happened to these people. At the heart of all the horrible stories rests the great fear of child abuse, a crime allowed to flourish unchecked for generations, which is now coming back to haunt us. The cases we've seen today inspire disgust and sorrow at the misery adults are capable of inflicting on children, but also provide a reminder of the damage a false accusation can cause. Should courts steer clear of something as complex as the mysterious workings of memory? Our legal expert, Professor Arthur Miller of the Harvard Law School, has some thoughts on that subject.
Every trial is about memory, recollection. So a witness's credibility is not a new issue for the law. What is new is that we're recognizing, probably for the first time in American legal history, the fact that we have to test memory not simply as to what happened last year, but what happened 10 or 20 years ago. The courts are on a roller coaster. We've gone from making believe child abuse never happens to seeing it everywhere. Most cases come down to whether you believe Smith or Jones. And the fact that Jones is 5 years old is simply one factor to be weighed along with the others. Fairness also demands that if I accuse you of a crime, you should have the right to look me in the eye and cross-examine. And that's true whether I'm 5 or 50. It will take another decade before the courts iron out these thorny issues. In the meantime, we have no alternative but to accept the wisdom of an honorable jury. A jury doing the best it can to separate truth from fiction and deciding whether a child has been coached or a defendant is covering up abuse.
I'm Jay Shadler, and thanks for being with us. Join us again as we look behind the headlines at crime, punishment, and the law on the next edition of the Justice Files.
Coming up, investigate the buying and selling of human organs on Discovery Journal. Tomorrow at midnight Eastern and Pacific, join penguins in search of long-lost mates and a comedian in search of laughter in Russia on Discovery Sunday.
explore your world.
When I started my temporary personnel business, I bought our computers and printers right here at Office Depot, and for 3 good reasons: price, selection, and price.
You said price twice, Mom.
Thanks, Marley. Now that I need a PC for home, I'm back at Office Depot for the same 3 reasons: price, selection, and price.
What a great price.
She's learning.
Buy your computer where businesses buy theirs. Office Depot. The best brands, the best prices.
This time around, you have it all. You'll catch the pass, catch the girl, catch the drift, catch the dream. Your time has come this time around, because everything's possible this time around.
It has dual airbags, an energy-absorbing steering column, and front and rear crumple zones. But unlike other luxury sedans, this one starts under $14,000, because you shouldn't have to spend your life savings on a car that could very possibly save your life. The Nissan Altima. It's time to expect more from a car.
The Discovery Channel. It's TV that takes you there, and you never know where it'll take you next. That's why you need Destination Discovery, the magazine of the Discovery Channel. With easy-to-read hour-by-hour listings, the most complete program descriptions available, great stories about real-world experiences, people, places, nature, history, science, and technology. And the spectacular photography in Destination Discovery takes you as close as you can get. Now you can get 12 issues, a full year's subscription to Destination Discovery for only $11.97. Call 1-800-294-2200 right now to get the most out of watching the Discovery Channel. Call and subscribe today to explore your world with Destination Discovery.
Next, investigate the selling of human organs on Discovery Journal. Tomorrow, visit the isolated plateaus of Venezuela on the natural world. And join penguins in search of long-lost mates on Discovery Sunday. Coming up next on the Discovery Channel.
If you needed money badly, would you sell one of your kidneys? In some developing countries, hundreds of people do every year. I'm John Palmer, and this is Discovery Journal. It was once considered a miracle of modern science, but now 300,000 people around the world each year receive organ transplants. In the United States, the number of heart, liver, and kidney transplants more than tripled in the last decade, thanks to advances in medical technology. But the number of people donating organs has stayed just about the same. That's created a huge shortage. Last year, 25,000 people in the United States who needed new organs were not able to find them. So more and more of those who need organs are turning to those who need money. In countries such as India and China, there's a brisk market in human organs. It's a practice that raises significant moral and ethical questions.